when you're going through it, when you're in the middle of it, get on your knees. You're gonna have to really go through some some growth. Growth is painful. Think about the chicken getting out of that egg. No,
Yeah.
it's painful to get the butterfly becoming the butterfly. It doesn't happen easily. It's life is tough.
Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. As usual, guys, this is my opportunity to first welcome our guests because I know they're coming with a couple of things very expensive in my eyes. Their time, 24 hours has been offered to every one of us. What we do with that 24 hours, like I keep telling you guys, will expose your sins. It'll tell me how you look at yourself. That's what it will show me. The other is the journey. The journey is a powerful creator. It created Gail, gave her some stuff that it deposited in her as she went through that journey. And there's stuff we call wisdom, knowledge, insights, and all of those different things. And so we want access to that. And in order for her to allow us access, she has to become vulnerable. And so we want to honor her for that and thank her for coming to Threads of Enlightenment. Gail, thank you.
It's a very big honor to be here, and I appreciate it so much.
It's an honor to have you, and I cannot wait to get into our conversation. As our custom here, Gail, is to ask our guests this beautiful question because I love simple questions, I call it. And my simple question to you is, how do you serve mankind?
I'm an advocate and an educator, inspire and motivator of single mothers. That's my passion, and that's what all my work is about.
That is awesome, and I can't wait to get into that. What we do here is go back because we all have, I tell people, we all have our beginnings, if you will, Gail, and that beginning, because we come out of hospital and we go home. Some of us, back in the old days, were have midwives that we were born home and so forth, but most of us, we were born in this hospital and then we were brought home. And in this unit, we are called, they tell us that it's called a family. And in this family, we have some strangers, mom and dad, and we have our brothers and sisters and so forth if we're lucky. But at this place, Gail, we're going to learn a couple of things early. Our communication skills, we're going to learn their beliefs are going to start being developed there. Patterns of behavior is going to start there as well. Trauma going to be there. Our mindset about certain things, our beliefs and mindsets, I call it our limitations are there. What was your family unit like?
Well, I was actually born at home. I wasn't born in a hospital, and, that was kind of at the turning point of those years when people did start birthing in hospitals.
Yeah.
But my parents were older when I was born, and my mother had given birth to 3 of my siblings before me, and, she had always been at home, and I was the baby. I was kind of the unexpected baby for my
Hmm.
parents were older, and my siblings were like 8, 12, 16 years older than me. And so I was kind of spoiled, or so they told me I was spoiled. I had a really good upbringing, though, very stable, very solid. And a lot of what I learned about serving was from my mother. I watched her be a servant to others. She would sew, she would bake pies, she would do these various things, but it was always for other people to who had needed it, and
Yeah.
I didn't realize, as a kid, I didn't realize that was such a big deal, but if there was a funeral, a death, my mother would be there. And sometimes I went with her just to wash dishes and help the people who were eating and that sort of thing. And then mother went into the slum area and started a mission there and worked there. And so that was an impression. And I tell people all the time, it's not what you talk about so much as the impression that you leave. And so I think that made a huge impact on me, not necessarily as a young adult, but later in life. And so, I mean, I went through some pretty rough experiences, and that pain led me to have compassion for other
Yeah.
people that I might not have developed if I hadn't gone through that. I've always been an empathetic and compassionate person, but when you go through something yourself, and I did, then it creates within you an understanding of other people and the situation that they are in.
Yeah. I believe leaders are formed there. I believe leaders are formed through tribulation. Gail.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe that because Those that have gone through hard times, the Bible terminology is tribulation and, difficult times. It says the fruit of those difficult times is usually character development. And and I believe that's where true leaders are born there because they learn about empathy. If you read the Bible and many other books and history and everything, all the leaders, they start there, the really good ones that are very empathetic with their people and are able to become an effective leader. They all went through some type of pain and tribulation that caused them to respond out of kindness. The It's these beautiful things that one develops as we walk through that. Here is this young girl, Gail, just exposed to a wonderful upbringing by her mom and dad in the sense of being one to witness personally servanthood through the embodiment of her mom. And as you're moving on through in your life, Gail, and you're looking towards college and the first crossroad as an individual will go in their life. Most of the times we're hanging out with mom and dad, high school, we get some, how high school is. It is a difficult path, as they say. But one of the very major crossroad is school, work. Which avenue did you take and why did you take it?
My father, it was not educated beyond the 8th grade when he was born, and gosh, he was born in 1908. Children went through the 8th grade, and
Yeah,
then he had to work on the farm after that, and he was one of 8, and there was a lot of hard work,
yeah,
and he insisted that I get a teaching certificate while I was in college, because I was in the arts. I love theater, I loved art, that's what I was studying, and
yeah,
he said to me one day, "What are you going to do with that degree?" And so I didn't really have a very good answer, and he said, "Well, I'm paying for your tuition, so you're getting a teaching certificate."
yeah.
And when I found myself divorced with 3 little kids, I needed that teaching certificate, and so, I did well with that. I was able to work, I was able to provide insurance for my children,
Yeah.
and, I have a lot of stories about that, but yeah, that was the path I took, and then when I went to work, a lot of the jobs I did didn't have anything to do with what I had studied, but the fact
Usually
that
the
I had
case.
that degree
Yeah.
made a difference and helped me in the future a lot.
Isn't it good sometimes to have those old school thinking as far as
Yeah,
mom and dad? If
it
you're
is.
here, you're going to get this because, again, there are several teachers that tell people where we are going to be obedient to our parents in certain areas. There's areas that, yeah, but when they're looking at things like that and they're only looking at out for us, they're looking out for us, if you will,
Absolutely.
because they've been there and they can see some things. And we, as the young ones, of course, they don't know what they're talking about. But when he's controlling the purse, if you will, when you have
That's
to go to school, I'm
right.
sure you're going to oblige and be obedient to that. So here you are. You mentioned that you got married, you had your children, and you're in a divorce. Talk to me about that because that's a hard place for a woman to be,
It was
especially a young woman with her kids, divorce back in the early days, as they say, was a big taboo when that happens and the woman is looked down upon, if you will, and all the other things that line up with society's way of belittling a woman when she's in that vulnerable state. Talk to us as to your case, in your situation. How did that went down and what was your mindset around that time?
Ken, you're gonna have to cut me off because I can talk about this for a long
It's okay.
you know, I was in a family, a very good, like I said, intact family. No one had ever gotten a divorce. And
Yeah.
it was a long time ago. Yes, it was. But here's the deal. I had everything. I had we were in a family business,
Hmm.
which is part of the problem, but we were in a family business. I had an acre of ground, beautiful dream house. I had these 3 children. I didn't have to work. We had a boat. We had, cars. My husband went to the family business every day. We had gardeners. We had it all. And there's something written called the proverbial secretary, but my brother actually fired my husband. It was like an episode of Dallas. I mean, in those days, people watched Dallas, and it was just a nightmare.
Yeah.
But I mean, I saw it coming. I wasn't like these women who say they didn't have a clue. I had a clue. But the
Yeah.
thing is, it was not, I wasn't in no way whatsoever prepared for this.
Yeah.
Yet I did have the degree. Well, when he left, my children were 5, 4, 3 years old. They were all born quickly in 3 years.
Yeah.
And I had not worked outside the home since they were born, and it was just one heartache, one hurt, one blow after another kept coming, and there was money involved, there was deceit involved, there was, the truth was not being told. I was just a wreck, and I was a wreck for a couple of years. So what I want listeners to know is you're going to hurt through these things. Now, when they're happening, they do not seem like tribulations you should be thankful for. They didn't seem like, "Oh, this is gonna grow my character." They seem like they seem like you're going through hell.
Yeah.
It's just awful.
Yeah.
I had to go to a job. Here we were in this beautiful home and all this, and I had to find a job. And I ended up working at a forklift dealer. I I mean, 2 there were 2 women there that worked there, mostly men, but the 2 women were married to ex-convicts. It was a really rough environment. So you can see my situation was like, whew, I just went from one experience to another. And I had to put my youngest in daycare, which, oh my gosh, he don't think he ever forgave me for that. And so, there was just it wasn't just one thing. It wasn't just one heartache. It was heartache for my children. And that took so many years. I mean, to this day, there's still some problems, years later for the heartaches that this brings. But I had to surrender it. And I've had to realize that, in fact, even this morning, it was like the still small voice said to me, I had to get you out of that situation. And it turned out he had a sort of a narcissistic personality that I didn't realize anything about at the time.
Yeah.
And yet there was no remorse. There was no remorse to the children, the things that he did. My goodness, I could go on and on. But the thing about it is, at my age now, I can look back and I can see why maybe. I can see the difference in me. I can see the strength in my children. I can see it differently. But I want to say to your listeners, when you're going through it, when you're in the middle of it, get on your knees. You're going to have to really go through some some growth. Growth is painful.
Yeah.
Just think about it. The chicken getting out of that egg. It's painful to get the butterfly becoming the butterfly. It doesn't happen easily. Its life is tough. And I would read a lot and I would study a lot and I learned a lot about spiritual growth, especially,
Mhm.
which I call soul stamina. I developed that over those years. And I don't know if I would have otherwise. Probably not.
Probably not, because we don't when there's comfort, no one seeks.
That's right. Oh, that's a good line. Yeah.
There's no need because you don't need to do anything. You're good.
Yeah.
And
We're
so, but
comfortable.
yeah,
We're kind of addicted to that comfort and that pleasure.
yes,
And yeah, we think it
yeah.
should
So,
be that way. It's supposed to be that way. The
yeah,
first sentence in Kim Scott Peck's book, I'm looking at it, The Road Less Traveled. The
yes,
first life is difficult. And the sooner you learn that, the better.
yes.
But we don't teach our Americans don't teach their kids this, that life isn't supposed to be a game and a party. It's not going to be.
Well, it wasn't designed to be.
No, sure isn't.
It rain on the just and the unjust. It rains. And so what does that mean? It means it's going to be difficult. Life is difficult, but the promises that God had said to us is that, hey, I'll walk with you in those dark times. And if you look at the Bible and read it and understand the Bible, you will see that God's model, his ways, is because he said, the psalmist cries, says, teach me your way. The way that God deals with us is through tribulation, is through
It
hard
is.
times.
I
It
don't
is how
understand.
he chooses.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you're so right.
That's how he deals with us. And so if everything is fine, then I won't, trust me, I'm not going to be seeking nothing because I'm going to be partying, girl. I'm going to be having me a good time. So it is through the difficult time that one gets in. God has to bring us to certain stages, being the stage of solitude. His way is to, when the world crashes on you, is to bring you into a state of solitude so that you can hear his voice. He take all these men and women into the desert. Jesus went in the desert. David went in the desert. Moses went into the desert. Paul went into the desert. Jesus went in straightway after baptism. Straight. It says the Holy Spirit took him into the desert. Everything happens in the desert. Why? Because we are there and we have an opportunity to hear God's voice, but also this is the opportunity where we go inward. We go inside. We began to dig deep, began to connect from that realm and bypass the natural mind. And so the space of the desert is where we need to go.
In fact, my very first chapter of the book is living with solitude,
Yeah.
the importance of solitude and not loneliness. It's a big difference, but good solitude is where you
Yeah.
need to be. You don't need to be afraid of it. You need to embrace it.
Yeah. Western civilization is afraid of it. If you have TV, we
Yeah,
have the phone, we have everything
the
else.
phone every minute. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We
We're
are
afraid
afraid of
of
it.
that place. But that's
And we
where we
don't
get our
teach.
power.
When I was a child, like I said, I was the youngest and everything, and I didn't have a lot of my siblings weren't playmates. And
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time alone, and that alone time developed creativity. We didn't
Uh-huh.
have all these things that we have now to keep us distracted. And so I learned about solitude very young. And then during the separation and divorce, I really learned about it. And I learned ways to use it to my advantage. In other words, I used it for a lot of prayer. I would read, I would study, and I would pray. I'd spread books out on my bed at night when the kids were finally asleep, and I spent time in solitude. And I so encourage people to do that because you're not going to hear that small voice. You're not
Yeah.
going to hear the spiritual guide speak to you unless it's quiet in silence. Anyway,
So
I can preach on that one.
let me talk to you about this for a minute because collecting data, studying is one of the best way to assist you when you're in the dark spaces because it's the truth is going to set you free. So you're looking for truth, ways to guide you out of your dark space. And you said you were leaning towards the spiritual side. What does that mean to the listeners when you are saying that you lean on the spiritual side? What were you studying, Gail? And what were some of those things that you started to see while you were studying?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, I mentioned M. Scott Peck's book. He had written several books. In fact, I'm looking. The one that the different drum and all, People of the Lie book was one that I put off reading and studying, but it has a whole lot of value for people who are dealing with people that aren't honest and do not have
Narcissist.
integrity. Well,
Yeah.
narcissists.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And even psychopaths, but mostly
Yeah.
narcissists or
Yeah.
sociopaths. And the people don't know
Sociopath. Yeah.
between sociopath and psychopath is a big difference. But so that's the kind of thing I would study. But aside from my scriptures, I would read those kinds of things. And I began reading maybe short things and guideposts. We used to have guideposts, and they would be testimonies of people who had gone through difficult stories,
Hmm.
difficult situations. And I would begin to think, maybe I could write some of this because I'm having some situations. And that was something I had done as a child to write. And so I began writing my stories because I really wanted to share experiences. And I'm talking, if your listeners wanna know about things to read, my goodness, it's so easy nowadays. I mean, it's just at your fingertips. Any topic you're interested in studying, you can find, and
Yeah.
there are books on just about everything,
Everything. Everything.
and it's anything you're going through, believe me, somebody's written a book about it.
Hmm.
So if you're a reader and that reading influences you, then I encourage people to do that. You have to be receptive, though. As a former teacher, I can say the learner has to be ready to learn. There's a teachable moment when a learner is ready. And if you're really ready, it will come to you and you will find that material that works for you. Even in your despair, and sometimes, especially in your despair,
Yeah.
you will find an answer. But you have to ask the questions and you have to be willing to sit in solitude to ask those questions. Whether you sit in quiet room with a candle or with a cup of coffee, it doesn't matter. Just to listen to that inner voice that is there for you. And I do believe it's there for everyone. If you're willing to hear the good voice, not the negative voice, because a lot of us tend to the negative, especially if you're in a bad place. Our brains are wired that way to think negatively, be pulled to negative thinking. Sometimes, I mean, I read the book, The Power of Positive Thinking when I was a kid, it's
Yeah.
been around forever. But there are other books now that are even better than that are more solid, I think. And if you're in a quest for knowledge, if you want the
Hmm.
truth, you can find it, but you have to be eager to find it,
Yes.
and then it will come to you. And if you say,
One
"Well, I
must
can't
become.
afford books," go to the library.
Yeah. You have to become a disciple when you are seeking truth. And disciple simply means discipline. You have to be hungry. And when you become hungry, because they would say you have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's basically you have to come to the end of your ability. And when you come to the end of your ability, that's usually when you will surrender because
That's
you'll
right.
need
Yeah,
God. You'll need someone else other than you because if you could have done it, you would have done it a long time ago. And
right.
so you realize at the end of this road that I can't do it. I need help. I have to surrender. And that's when we break and we will say, I've heard this testimony a million times. People that didn't believe in God, pushing and pushing, came to the end of their rope. And then they would say things like, if you are real. And then several months later, you hear them talking about, you know what? God showed up. And yeah, he's just waiting for
Yes,
you to get out of
God
the way.
showed up.
Yeah, he's waiting for you to shut down and give him the opportunity to be present with you and to show you what he can do because he wants to do that for you. So here you are, Gail. You are reading, you're studying, and both spiritual stuff and self-help, they call it these days, girl. And you're studying all of that and you are building up yourself because you showed me in the beginning of the podcast, those pictures of those beautiful women out there. And I believe that you were picked and chosen because God knew he can trust you to come out to the other side because of all those women out there that are depending on you to come through that stuff because he has set aside those for you. So here you are, you're in it. The darkest times are there. Your walls are closing in. You're studying. What did you begin to notice in your life that you had to start making changes in reprogramming your mind? And what tools did you bring into your life, to help you to do that?
Well, first of all, the huge A is acceptance. I think that's what you deal with in any kind of grief,
Yeah.
is accepting the circumstances that you would like to have changed or would like to have been different. Whether a person has died or a marriage has died or a relationship has died, you are on the grieving end. And so I took a while, I took a couple of years, I think, before. And I did have to make decisions. I mean, I had to go to work, I had to figure out how to get a job, and that was difficult because I had 3 little kids and all this. So I couldn't go into theater like I had wanted to. I couldn't do that, so I had to get another certificate. So you have to make decisions, and I think that nowadays it's a lot easier to gather information in order to make decisions, but that's the first thing I suggest is going in and gathering as much information as possible, which is kind of what I did, but I had some people advising me about getting another type of certificate so I could teach. So then, my decision was to teach English, and I did do that, and I got a job, and then I got another job. Finally, after a few years, I knew that I was gonna have to shift my brain set. If I wanted to do my life, then I could make my life how I wanted it, then I was going to have to make some changes. And one of the changes I needed to make was to get a higher level degree, or I'd never increase my salary significantly. Because as a teacher in Texas, the higher level your degree is, the more you get paid. So I made it an adventure. I took my 3 children to Austin, Texas. I went to the University of Texas and I got a master's degree. Now, that was an empowering experience. It was an adventure for kids, it was an adventure for me, and I've written it up. It's been published about it. And then I love telling people the story because it happened one little step of faith at a time.
Yeah.
I didn't eat the whole enchilada at once. So when you're in this situation, sometimes you can't see tomorrow, you can't see next month, so you just have to do what you can do now, and that's what I did. I looked into it, I had to take the GRE, I hadn't taken the standardized test in 18 years, but you have to take that to get into a master's degree program, and then I had to go to the university and talk to them to get admitted, but I still didn't have a place to live. I didn't have a place for the kids to stay. I could have just said, "You know what? This isn't meant to be. I'm not gonna do this." But instead of doing that, I kept moving forward a little step at a time. And I'll tell you, it's a miraculous story what happened. Now, I'm not saying everybody this is gonna happen to you, but I'm using it as an example of what you can do if you decide and you make little baby steps. For you, it might be just getting a GED,
Hmm.
you know, making the phone calls to find out how to prepare for that. There's all kinds of little things that you can do that don't have to be really big. So, what I did was I got in, I got accepted, and then unfortunately, UT at the time had a program for continuing older students. You know how old you had to be an older student? 3. I'm a lot older than that. And so they gave me a list of daycares. I could go to 100 daycares.
Yeah.
They were spread all over the place. There was everything from a place you wouldn't leave your dog to really elite things, a very expensive one. But most people said you can't get 3 kids in for just the summer because people hold those spots.
Yeah.
Well, I kept looking and I went to this place that was downtown in the middle of town. I thought, how could a good daycare be in the middle of the city? They had the award winning playground.
Yeah.
This woman took me through every room, even the kitchen. And then she said, "Can I enroll your children?" I said, "You know, I have 3 kids." She said, "Oh, yeah." So I got enrolled in this daycare right down center town in Austin. Well, that's just one thing. I had to have a place to live.
Yeah.
My time was running out, and all my deposits were running out. So, well, what am I going to do about this? And I had a friend that lived there, and she started putting up things on bulletin boards for me. And 2 days before all of my money that I had deposited at the university would have been lost, she called. "I have a place I think you can lease for the summer." Now, here's the catch. You know, if you ever see a map of Austin, I think it's 40 acres. It's huge. The campus
Yeah.
is huge. And this particular apartment we were in was half a block where you could just walk to the shutter bus
Hmm.
station where they picked you up in a shuttle bus. This particular bus went directly to the childcare center.
Uh-huh.
I could drop the kids off in there, then come out. There were on either corner, you could pick up a bus, and both buses would go, guess where? Exactly to
Directly
the front of the
to
building
school.
where all my classes were. Now, if you look at the map of the University of Texas in Austin,
Yeah.
you would know what a miracle that was. But it didn't happen because I pushed and shoved and made it happen. It happened because I had faith, one baby step at a time. And that was what was published. My first article published in 2000 was about going back to college like that. I don't think everybody has to go to college. That's not everybody's answer, but it's really helpful for single mothers these days to have at least a 2-year degree. And so that was some of the things I did to make my mind shift. And it gave me confidence, going through school, being able again to make grades and meet people and study and learn because I'm a lifelong learner. That really shifted my life right there. That one experience.
Yeah, that's the life of faith, and everyone is called to live that life.
Mm.
Herein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith. The just shall live by faith. Everyone is we're called to live that way. Why? Because we have a God that he's very particular in how he provides for his people. He's a perfectionist because it tells us everything is done in his time and it's perfect. Another thing that he does is that he is very mindful of all the things that we need, the location. You couldn't plan it better.
No, I could
So
not have.
someone else was doing all the planning, and all you had to do was being obedient to fate. And fate is simply stepping out, as Gail said, you don't have the full answer. If you had the full answer, it wouldn't be fate, would it? So
Absolutely.
you don't have the full answer. You just have to make decisions that are right. And what happens, synchronicity that God does, is he works on people's heart because he knows you have a need. So he is going to work on people's heart to provide that need. You find your way to this woman's daycare. I love how we always say we find our way. God is leading you where to go. And the woman turns to you and says, "Hey, you ready? I can take your kids." Your friend calls. And so what does that mean? He has people that are working for you behind the scenes, but that's what fate is. You don't have the answers. He does. He has a global view on your situation. And so he's able to do all of these things. The only thing that he needs from you is your faith. Just keep walking. Just keep walking. Just
Well,
don't worry about anything. You just keep walking and you will be amazed at the synchronicity of things. The bus just happened to stop in front of the daycare. That just happened to. What are you talking about? Somebody was designing this thing long
yeah.
before you even showed up. And he was just waiting for you to begin to take those steps one at a time, regardless of what it looks like. And he provided. And I dare any one of you guys to walk by faith as God directed us to do, because he's already provided these people and he has the grace. It tells us in the scripture, the grace that divinely influenced our heart to cause that plan to be put together. All he needs is your faith. So here you are. What a beautiful story, a powerful story. I mean, just absolute powerful story.
Yeah.
And you are here and you're gathering all of these. You're a student studying, you went in, you got your degree, and now you are able to, if you will, come out and provide for the family. And I love this stuff. People think that everything is bed of roses and all is good. So after you finish all of that, I know God, especially when he has stuff for you to do, you're not going to feel comfortable at all. You're going to be okay, but you're going to have this restlessness going on. So talk to me about that, Gail, because I know my father, because when he has something for you to do, he's not going to let you rest. The Holy
Uh,
Spirit is not going to let you rest because he has work for you. Those pictures of those women behind that wall, he has stuff for you to do. Talk to me as to after you got your degree, life happens. But when he begins to put this little pressure, if you will, on your spirit and you are not feeling comfortable just living. Talk to me about that and how did it manifest and where did it lead you to?
well, there's another situation in between all of that. I was pretty miserable at work, and I didn't like that I couldn't get a better job even though I had this degree, and I spent that summer really working, trying to get a different job, and I didn't get one interview, not one. And I
Mhm.
had a pretty good resume at the time. Well,
Yeah.
I had to go back to teaching. I had to go back because I was under contract, and I was so tired. I mean, 3 children, teaching, I was just exhausted. Every night I would, and I'd never done this before in my life. Every night I would get on my knees by my bed, and I would just say, "God, I must be where you want me. So get me through another day."
Yeah.
I'd climb in bed, exhausted, and go back to work the next day. That was in late August. October the 6th, I get a message from the superintendent, "See me." And I thought, "Oh dear, I'm in trouble now. What did I do wrong? Maybe I've complained too much. Maybe he knows how miserable I am, da 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 da." I didn't know what it was gonna be, but they ended up recruiting me to teach children who were blind and visually impaired in 2 different school districts, which meant I had to go back to the University of Texas if I accepted this position. But I knew in my spirit that I was supposed to do this.
Yeah.
I did it. I got my certificate to teach Braille, the most honorable thing I have ever done professionally was to teach a blind child to read Braille. And I still
Yeah.
know her. She's a grown woman. I've done this with, and so that happened. And then I can tell many stories. I'm trying to decide which story to tell
Gail,
you.
imagine if you had that job that you're pushing for, you would have missed it.
You're right. You're right.
Imagine that. And so
I
God
would
had
not
to,
know these women. I would not know the
yeah,
children I had to deal with and their parents.
yeah,
And over the years, 10 years of that, I have met some people and hopefully touched some lives there. And so all of that occurred. But ultimately, I remarried. And when I remarried, I was fortunate enough to be able to provide something for single moms, which I had always wanted to do. And I don't know, I think it came from something I saw someone else do maybe, but I brought them in. I brought a small group into my home and we started having these Saturdays of blessing for single moms. We blessed their socks off. We gave them massages. We gave them gifts, something that nobody had ever done. We made a big memory for them. I started having retreats, spiritual retreats, overnight retreats. And we did that for 6 years. And one day, one of my friends remarked, "This is really good. This is really great what we're doing, but it's not eternal. It's not long lasting. It's not affecting their lives more significantly."
yeah.
And I got to thinking about that, and I also thought about the fact that I had counseled with and coached single moms over the years, and there was one common thread they had. The women who were having the most difficulty, and maybe somebody's listening to this, the hardship were women who had never gone to college at all
Hmm.
or who had no certificate of any kind that led to significant employment. And so they were just hanging on, thinking that it couldn't get better because they had kids to raise, they had a job to do. And I knew of an organization that provided for moms like this. And I thought, well, maybe I could get them to come. Well, I found out that takes $2 or $3 million. And I didn't have $2 or $3 million. But I remember the little verse that says, "Do not despise small
Small
beginnings."
beginnings. Yeah.
And so we started with one mom. She's right up there at the top right now, top
Hmm.
center. She's now a social worker. She got her degree because we supported her all the way through. And we have got police officer, we've got social workers, we've got dental hygienists, we've got business degrees, we've got 2 or 3 licensed vocational nurses. And we've got one working on a 4-year degree in speech pathology. And I am definitely not one of these people that says everybody needs to have a college degree because I have 3 kids and none of them have degrees. I couldn't afford it. So I'm saying that single mothers today, and there's over 10 million in the United States, 1/3 of them live in poverty. They need something to provide a reasonable income. And this is one way to do it. And so I've got radiologists, We just love to it's just the most exciting thing. I'm passionate about it because I see these moms graduate and I see it affect their children. We had one graduate the other day and she crossed the stage. And when she did, her little boy, probably 9 years old, screamed as loud as he could, "That's my mama." And I said, this is what you want for people. You want to serve people who are underserved, that the
Yeah,
community has stigma against for some reason, and that they just need a hand up, not a
yeah.
handout. They just need a help. It's been a blessing. It's just wonderful. You
Some
can
of you
tell I get pretty
ladies
excited.
or men that are out there, ladies that are listening to our conversation, maybe God has been putting on your heart to do something like what Gail is talking about, and you weren't sure how to even start. Here she is. We're going to provide those links so you can get to her so she can help you navigate, if you will. There's lots of stuff out there, but you're still going to need a guide that will be able to help you navigate step one, step two, and so forth. And that step of faith is going to be a part of it. But we're going to provide all of her links so you guys can get to Gail, because I think that there is a need, as she talks about the amount of million women out there. There's a great need. And
Mhm.
if there's something that you have, because I know some of you women are just wanting to do something, here is something that you can do that will help you. And I'll give you guys all of Gail's information so you can get there, man. Go ahead, Gail.
This is another way they can reach us. We're having
Yeah.
a network connect group,
Single
Zoom
Mom
on
Connect.
this. Yeah, Single Mom Connect, and they can Zoom. And if they connect with me on my website, they'll see this. And we're doing it on the second Saturday of each month, and it's free. And there may be a social worker there. You could reach a coach. There are a couple of us, and people there to help you. And you may just want to pop in and listen. It's okay.
Yeah. That is beautiful service, guys. Someone needs to start one for single dad, because I was telling Gail I had four boys, a single dad with four boys, and so I know some of the challenges that can arise from all of that. And I actually had many of the neighborhood kids who would, the runaways, if you will, they would stay at my house. So I'd contact their parents and let them know. So many of those kids were they called me dad,
Mm,
many of them, that because they were always there and I took care of them, but their parents knew where they're
wonderful.
at. And,
Wonderful.
I've been called to their weddings and everything, so I know what it is to be a part of that type of connection. So all of you that are thinking about it, go ahead and do it. The reward is absolutely beautiful and God will be there with you. So here you are, you know, what a beautiful ministry, what a beautiful life that one has been offered to you as through your obedience to growth, through your obedience to God, through your obedience to the process of living and walking with your God. You are here today and you have a mic. What is it would you say to those women, the single women out there? You have a mic to talk to each one of those 10 million of them. What would you say?
Well, the first thing I would say is don't give up. Use some really quiet time to ask questions in the spirit and to listen for answers. If you're given a goal, if you're given a thought of maybe something you could do, run it through the prayer, but gather information. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to gather information, and it's right at your fingertips these days. Set some goals for yourself. Maybe just tomorrow, I'm going to get all the laundry done. It doesn't have to be something big, but you need to feel like you've gotten something accomplished every day. And it is, we only live daily. We don't live a year at a time. We live a day at a time. So set goals and then have reasonable plans for your future and make them reasonable. I'm not going to climb Mount Everest. I know that, but I can go on a hike. I can get out of the house in the nature. I can do something, go to a library, all things that don't cost you any money, but give you a mindset, a spiritual shift, which builds soul stamina, which is what you need, soul stamina.
Gail, talk to us about your other child, your fourth child, if they say, which is that book, Living, from Surviving to Thriving is your tagline, Living, Learning, and Loving. That beautiful work that you did. Talk to us about that. How did that manifest it? How did God assist you with the incubation and giving birth of that book? And talk to me about one of those ladies that are on that wall that came into your space and through conversations with you were able to, as we said earlier in our conversation, were able to change their perspective as to how they are approaching their life. And as they make that transition and they made the decision to, with this new truth, if you will, talk to me about that process and how it affected them, because I know how it affected you. I know what it does to you. But how did it change them? First, talk about the book, the process of that, how it came in, and then let's pick one of those beautiful women on the wall and talk to us about their
All right.
transition.
Okay. The book came about because I wrote one story at a time over many years. And ultimately, a friend of mine had a little publishing company and she wanted to put it together. She put it together into 12 chapters. Each chapter is one of my stories, one of my testimonies. And the end of the chapter, it has some provoking questions. So it's a great study guide for women, especially single moms, but just anybody. I've gotten 2 men reviewed it. So it's got a lot of meat in it and truth. And yes, I talked to someone yesterday who keeps it on her nightstand. She's already read it, but she said, once in a while, I'll just look at it and it reminds me. And so there are stories there that hopefully you can relate to because they're very transparent. I mean, I share things most people probably wouldn't share, but there's that. And I'd like to tell you about one of these women up here on this bulletin board. Our first woman to graduate got a degree in social work. And this is a woman who's gone through a lot of hardship. When she was 12 years old, her mother died, and there were like 11 children, and she had to take over most of the chores. She was 12, but she was very tall, so she drove the car and she took care of the business of the family. But she has wisdom, really deep wisdom, and she wanted to share that, and she wanted to get into social work. Well, she did, and she's excellent at it. And she will be working now in Port Arthur School District as a social worker this fall. And I'm just very happy for her. But, we've got many stories of these moms that have gone through, whether it's radiology. One of them just finished in dental hygiene, and she's in Louisiana now. She came over here just to get this degree in Texas. And so I could go on and on about the stories for these
Yeah.
moms. And yes, one or two of them call me mom. We get close. I can't get close with all of them anymore. The board of directors handles most of it now, but we have one working on speech and pathology, which is a really tough degree, 4-year degree.
Yep.
Most of them work on 2-year degrees. But I want to encourage listeners to don't think this is impossible for you, especially nowadays, because you can do a lot online, which we couldn't used to do. So, yeah, my method, my messages are in the book, and yes, I relay those messages to single moms as I work with them, and I also have them on YouTube. I'm working more and more on YouTube, but these moms that you see behind me, each one of them is very dedicated, and they all have different personalities, different backgrounds, different situations. Some have 1 child, some have 5. It's just a matter of they want to make life not just better for themselves, but better for their children. And that's what we're about.
That's beautiful, Gail. Guys, we're going to put all those information for you to have access to her because it's important that you do, especially ladies, single moms. Here is someone that you can trust, someone that will create that safe space for you, especially on that Zoom call. We're going to put all that stuff so you guys will have access to her and to all of those other single moms that will be on that call so that you can start networking, learning, having a friend that is familiar with all of the different things that you're going through and is there to support you. Gail, thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you, Ken. I really enjoy this.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Threads of Enlightenment with Ken Primus. Hopefully you're now feeling more empowered to overcome the challenges in your life, whatever they may be. Share that inspiration with others by telling them about this podcast, rating it, and of course, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. For more connection, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Threads of Enlightenment. Until next time, stay enlightened.